I know that at the beginning of the morning, we talked about our Uniting the Nations of the Cloud session, and we've got two coming up back to back. First, we are going to focus on Europe, and for that conversation, I am going to introduce your moderator today, who is Dawson, the Executive Director of I2 Coalition, and joining him today, we will have Dom, Christoph, and Torsten for the conversation. Welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to having a really interesting panel today. Okay. Thank you all for being here. We'll get to a little bit of introductions in a moment. First, I wanted to note that a couple of different things. This is Uniting the Nations of Cloud with a focus on Europe. The idea here is that we're all here together at CloudFest, 20th anniversary of CloudFest, and we want to bring everybody's perspective from their different local perspectives on the cloud. And we want to see what we can learn from each individual region that the other regions might be able to learn from. So you're our ecosystem in Europe, and of course the conference is in Europe, right? So we had to find the best of the best to really give us deep insights on the community that we probably know best. But here's the thing. They got a moderator from the United States. So this is not my community. This is not my perspective. You know, so I'm the guy who gets to ask the really dumb questions so that you can really bring us along. But the point is that we are trying to make sure that we can learn, that the rest of the communities here can really learn from Europe. And I want to give you a little context of who it is you're meeting here. So I'm wondering if, rather than me kind of read off your bio, that I can ask you one by one to introduce yourself and a little bit about the company that you represent. Dom, I was wondering if we could start with you.
Yeah, sure. I'm Dom. I've been doing hosting now, I think, for 20 years. I built my first business from my bedroom when I was 17. Ended up selling that to Hauschildt Group and then GoDaddy in 2017, and these days, co-founder, CTO of World Host Group, which is essentially another hosting consolidator. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. And Torsten.
Yeah, my name's Torsten. I'm the head of M&A of Team.blue. I'm in the hosting industry for now about, let's say, 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
I'm with, I'm responsible for all the M&A activities within Team.blue, which is is the second largest hosting group in Europe. Before that, I worked 12 years for United Internet, the parent company of Ionos, where we also did a lot of M&A during this time, and and entered in the hosting industry in 2007, where all the consolidation just more or less started.
I'm already really intrigued because we've just highlighted two very different stories, and so let's see. Christoph, where's your perspective in the cloud?
Yes. First of all, don't worry. We'll teach you about Europe, so you don't need to worry about that one, right? We're here. We can do that. My name is Christoph. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ScaleUp. We are a family-owned hosting company based in Germany, and we celebrated 25 years or 25th anniversary last year already. So that's been some time, actually.
It has. That's really impressive. That's very impressive. So we've got some entrepreneurial experience. We've got a good deal of M&A experience, but from a couple of different types of models of M&A. That's going to be really interesting as we unpack what's going on in Europe. And I think that we should start by talking a little bit about basically the market. Let's start talking about from the consumer perspective of the services you sell. I sort of want to explore consumer confidence. I want to explore growth rate, right? How is it going this year? How are you feeling about how your customers are feeling in Europe this year?
Me first?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah, it's great. It's I always think that what we do is almost recession-proof.
Okay.
Obviously, it's been more difficult recently with interest rate rises and wage growth and price rises from all angles.
A little bit closer.
So, sure.
Yeah.
So price rises from all angles. So our customers can afford less, but at the same time, we need to pay our staff more. But I think what helps us is keeping service quality high, keeping things efficient. So really for us, it's the same approach that we take normally.
Okay.
We just try and balance everything.
Okay, great.
I mean, from my perspective, it has, I would, let's say, have to span a little bit broader for the past 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, it's, let's say 23 is the first, or 23 was the first year without any substantial crisis. So, and if I see starting with Corona, which gave a huge impact on our industry, let's say we're driving a lot more people to our business, gave a big push on digitalization.
Okay.
And because when Corona starts, we always thought, okay, what is happening now? But all of a sudden we realized after after 1 month, 2 months, that all of a sudden, let's say we saw volume taking up, we saw that consumption was taking up, the whole more democratization of, let's say, users coming to the internet and, let's say, needing websites, because one of the key drivers of our industry, at least from the shared hosting side of the things, is the need of having a website, right?
Yes.
And that increased tremendously. So 2021 was really rocket year for the whole industry and show how robust the industry is. And then 22 happened with the Ukraine war, with let's say the interest rates coming up, with a slowdown of the overall economy, and then you saw that people just, and then the inflation coming
Yes.
up, and with all the prices for us as hosters, let's say where we need to manage, meaning like salary prices, energy prices, and in terms of robustness, what Dom just said is we saw how able we have been to, let's say, give the prices to the market, to the customers, and then also manage to increase our business. So 23 had the first year without crisis, and where we came back a little bit to normal.
Okay.
And where we could see that some of the companies have overdone it a little bit with pricing, and then had a huge impact on the volume.
Okay.
On the volume side of things. So everything comes a little bit back to normal, where everybody has now to start to manage again the normal business as usual, which also had the challenges.
That was a great summary of 3 years or more of activity. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that much to add, but I guess our industry really doesn't have to worry at all. I mean, people need more IT every single day. So,
Sure.
I mean, looking at the German market or the German economy, yes, it has problems. It's going down a bit, but well, for our part of the economy or our industry, I mean, we see much more demand than ever before. So, it's especially with the rise of all those AI use cases coming up
Right.
over and over. Well,
Yeah,
we need to do even more, right? I mean,
I definitely want to talk about AI.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to talk
We
about
have to.
AI.
Yeah, yeah.
In every
I
panel,
know.
in every session, we need to talk about AI. That's I think, a rule this year.
But Christian, just to add on that, because we just said before that you guys Americans are always very optimistic. So let's be in Europe a little bit more optimistic.
yeah, we can also be optimistic.
Yeah, so to add a little bit optimistic in AI, what we're going to see is that the ease of use in terms of website creation
Yep.
will from my perspective be disruptive on the market, because we saw that, let's say, in terms of domain and hosting, we are coming into a, let's say, where the market get more, let's say, saturated, yeah, because and the core driver of the business is still the number of website and the additional services that you can sell on top. With AI coming through and the ease of creating a website is now getting even more difficult, more easy, right? Because in the past, the biggest issue for creating a website was I need to start to actually create content, put photos on, and have to think about how to do it. That hinders the most of small business owners to do a website, right? It's like fitness after Christmas. Yeah, you sign up, you go into the, let's say, fitness club, and all of a sudden you're using, it's sweat, and it's hard to do. And the same is with the website, right? You have to do it,
Right.
and with AI, this will disrupt the way of creating a website. And that will, from my perspective, add another growth layer to allow people to create websites, and that will then drive our business. I'm quite sure about that.
That sounds really interesting. It will probably also disrupt the managed services market of the people that are, smart people who are hired to do hard things if AI is doing a lot more of those hard things for them. That might not be as rosy on that side as far as opportunity goes. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we still need real people coding those AI models. So I don't think that, at least for us in this industry, I don't see a big issue there. But to add on the website creation, I do hope that not all websites will only have ChatGPT created content at some point, because it all sounds the same, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I see quite a lot of conversations on our live chat, which most of the time is fairly responsive. And customers say, "Are you a bot?" And our staff member says, "No." And the customer says, "You would say that."
Yeah, but I think the point is, it's not about that all the content is then that used in the actual content, but if a user gets a complete ready website and then can add, okay, I changed the content here a little bit and I add a photo here a little bit. It is a difference if you have a blank page where you just have to do everything and then you are 80% there, and the only thing what you have to do is, let's say, personalize that a little bit, and then you have it. And that's where I'm thinking AI can do a tremendous job, because if you only go for AI, then also Google will recognize and everybody will recognize it's just artificially created. But if you add on top of AI a little bit of your personal note to it, that can really make then the difference. And then for me, my perspective, it can give a great push.
So no, Dom, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I think on that, someone told me a good phrase last week, which is that AI won't take your job, but someone using AI will do your job better than you. So you can obviously save time with AI, but it really should just be a foundation for the rest of the human input for the last 20%.
So in that regard, I'm interested in exploring a little bit of what you see as the future of competition in the European cloud. Because there are going to be people who are really good at doing AI, and a lot of them are going to be major hypervisor-focused players. How do you, is this going to be a situation where it's like equitable and there's opportunity for all, or are we worried about a couple of major players coming in there and taking all the opportunities?
Good question. I've met quite a lot of good AI startups this week, and yeah, it does help equalize, doesn't it? Yeah.
So you think there's opportunity for all?
Yeah, I think it makes it much easier. It doesn't matter where you're based as much. Doesn't matter.
Just in context, I got the pleasure to moderate the opening keynote with Jürgen Schmidhuber, who is like the father of modern AI, and I said that there were people that are talking to me about concerns that a lot of the major AI tools that people are leveraging, the OpenAI is a key example of that. Some of the tools that Microsoft has are really in the hands of a few major organizations. And he said, open source AI is 6 months behind, the Microsofts of the world. Don't worry.
Honestly, I personally, for the hosting industry, I have no worries at all, because in the end of the day, I mean, if you look on our core product for most of us, yeah, it's still domain and hosting.
Yeah.
Come on, it's commoditized, right? So what is what you want to change with an I? Yeah. So, but you still need your domain, you still need your web space.
Yeah.
For me, it's, let's say, the products that you can sell on top. And there, our core issue was, for some of the more complex products, we needed agencies, you needed, let's say, additional support. With AI, there is a strong likelihood that those products become more plug and play, which offers us the opportunity to upsell these products into our customer base. So for me, let's say from a hosting perspective, and being let's say in the hosting industry, I do not sleep bad at night. Even the contrary. If I would be in other, let's say, SaaS businesses or other, let's say, businesses where they're dealing with more complex issues, there I would be more worried, because the market entry barriers, they becoming so low. The market entry barriers for hosting are super easy. You know, it's you can set up a hosting business like in 1 month, and then it's done, right? So market entry barriers in hosting are super low. AI will make that market entry barriers for businesses where the business model was a little bit more complex,
right,
required more work, will now come down drastically, and that can then really make can change the industry where those businesses are in.
Christoph, as a smaller organization, a family organization, do you feel as though you're primed to take advantage of these opportunities in the same way?
Well, so for us, actually, the whole AI GPU market, we actually come from a different perspective, since we more or less focus on actually running all that infrastructure.
That's great.
So we actually have existing customers requesting AI servers, GPU instances from us, and they are all trying to actually build their own language models.
Oh.
So and that's where I actually see a big opportunity for lots of companies out there to, well, basically build their own ChatGPT-like things, but really geared to their use case. Maybe also having a different tonality of the language which comes out, which is maybe more applicable for a certain industry or market or region. And, well, all of that infrastructure needs to run at some place. And a lot of our customers are worried about pushing all of that into the public cloud to the big hyperscalers, because, well, you have to feed those models with data, and that data, well, is the value of most of those companies. So
sure,
they're a bit worried about putting that someplace where they don't know where it is or where it goes, right?
That makes a good deal of sense, because so the things that are focused on the world and that are big and that are built to take in the data of the world go to the large organizations that already have access to those types of things. But there's still lots of opportunities in meeting the custom needs of specific situations.
Exactly.
Tons of stuff. That's great. That's great. Now I'd like to shift in talking about sort of the economics of the cloud in Europe, to talking a little bit about consolidation and mergers and acquisitions. And we've got a couple of people here that have different perspectives on that, different takes on that. And I'm wondering, is there a lot of consolidation happening right now? Let's start with, but before we look at what we think is going to happen in the future, maybe after all this AI stuff, is there a lot of consolidation going on now in Europe?
I think this is definitely one for Torsten.
Okay.
Look, I think the role model for me is always the US, right? If you're now looking at the US, although we in Europe are much more diversified market, in the end of the day, you have three larger hosting players in the US, and that is what we here in Europe are also converging into, right? So there has been a lot of consolidation over the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years. Okay. We have, let's say, somehow 3-4 larger hosting groups, okay, that have emerged,
right?
And and there's still a little bit room for consolidation, but my feeling is that so far there will be a moment where consolidation comes to a certain end, where because everybody has a business that has a right on its own,
Right.
so no need to further consolidate unless something happens in the ownership structure where people really want to change something. So my feeling is there, let's say on the larger end, consolidation is there are some 1, 2, 3 targets left,
Okay.
but that's basically it. And if you then go if you go into the different countries, there is still a little something, but also not much anymore. So I think from that end, I feel that also Europe tends to be much more consolidated, and everybody is looking much more outside Europe in order to repeat what has happened in the US, what happened in Europe,
see.
and what is now starting in other markets that you will cover throughout your panel.
Okay, that makes a good deal of sense. Okay, so for many years I went to conferences, particularly in the United States, and people would use the word consolidation in a very negative tone. They would look at it as something where the community is cannibalizing itself. They were looking at that. I think what I'm hearing is that we are in a situation right now where we've created a bunch of very dominant players in the United States, and in order to compete with those dominant players within Europe, there is a concerted effort to try to build up large enough players to do so. We're reaching a point where we're getting to that point where we've got a good mix of larger organizations who are able to be in that position. You're also going to see other regions adopt that same strategy that you're employing, in order to make sure that consolidation is a part of the mix that happens within a region of the United Nations of Cloud, so that all the regions can compete effectively.
Indeed,
Right?
indeed, yeah.
Okay. And what's your perspective? What's your place in that ecosystem?
I mean, when I started 20 years ago, people told me, don't go into hosting. It's what's this internet thing? It's only just getting started, or, there's already big established companies. And on the one hand, yes, there are the sort of more dominant players, but this market, even now, even 20 years later, is still fragmented. And I think that actually consolidation can help with innovation.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're all entrepreneurs. A lot of us maybe want to make an exit and have do something else for a while, but then we have a new idea, and because we've left one company, we can start a new one. And it's been really interesting this year meeting some of the newer companies. Obviously I'm mostly UK focused, but I've met companies from Eastern Europe that are really innovative, really disrupting the market. It's really exciting to see it still happening because, like you said earlier, the European market is now growing strongly after COVID. So I think it's just part of the whole ecosystem, and you need the big consolidation to then also start innovation.
Christoph, is M&A on your mind?
At this point, no. And I wanted to add a different perspective, actually. So, I mean, a lot of that consolidation happens to have bigger players to compete with the even bigger players, hyperscalers, and so on, right? But I do see personally, and also from my company perspective, that there's also other ways to compete with all the big players in the market. And I see a more open approach to things by following open source and open source initiatives and actually trying to work together. So we have really a handful of, well, basically competitors that we hand in hand work with here in Germany. And honestly, the market is big enough so everyone can take a piece of the cake. And there's at least in the last couple of years, many different efforts where competing companies actually work together and even follow approach of open operations where one helps the other. And I see a big benefit in that, and I personally prefer to work this way. Not saying that at some point maybe M&A could be interesting, maybe also the other way around, right? But I kind of like this open source approach of things.
I'm actually I'm really encouraged by the fact that I'm hearing from 3 different companies with 3 very different approaches and different pieces of the market, all saying we see opportunity, we see growth opportunity, and the things that we are doing, be it focused on doing roll-ups, be it focused on different parts of the market, aren't negatively affecting each other, that there's room for us all in this ecosystem. Is my characterization right in general?
I would say so, yes, definitely.
Okay, good. Well, that's surprisingly healthy. And in service of trying to take care of our customers. And I guess what I want to talk about next is what our customers are using. Like where are the demand drivers for your product? You say that it's growing. What's growing? What are you selling that people need more of?
We're mostly shared hosting. We also sell quite a lot of managed hosting, fully managed. The reason for that really is that when I started a long time ago, I bought an unmanaged server, I broke it, I got frustrated with support. It wasn't their fault, it was completely my fault. So I taught myself how to do this. And then I realized there's probably other small businesses who aren't server experts, who want reliable systems. And to this day, that's been our focus, is trying to help the smaller businesses, less than 10 staff.
Nice.
Give them a reliable environment at a sensible price. But mainly, the main driver is always shared hosting.
It's great.
I mean, from our perspective, we also do like shared hosting, and honestly, what is happening is what we saw already like for the past five years. In the end of the day, how it looks like, an average SME player company spends like €1,000 on their IT stuff, right? On their products that they're using, because they are businesses, yeah. So they need something. We as hosters only serve with hosting and domains €150. That means there is still 850 they are going to spend with other companies that are outside our ecosystem. And what you're going to see, and again, it's nothing new, right? It's that, of course, we always have served Office. We always have served email products. And now we are starting to serve also other products. And you see what GoDaddy did in the US, let's say expanding their product that they're offering, although probably they are too late in certain areas. But it is the same thing that everybody is, that all the hosters are doing, getting more of the share of wallet by offering more products, and not necessarily like it must be like one tech stack, can be different tech stacks. The question is, what is, let's say, as in your iPhone, is there any sort of master data that you can share to make that an okay user experience? And then up you go. And that is really what we will continue to do. And there is still, let's say, as I said, €850, where there's still a lot of potential for us to grow by selling more products to the customer that we already have.
Yeah, so I mean, since we don't do that classical web hosting, but more the managed hosting, co-location, cloud services, for us, the main driver still is companies are still outsourcing their IT. Yep. They did that 25 years ago when we started. They are still doing it. And I believe, I don't know the exact numbers, but more than 50% of all the servers still sit in some company headquarters, offices, and that's not the right place to run your infrastructure. And especially for us here in Germany, with all new directive legislations, regulations, where you have to take care of properly running your infrastructure, making it secure. There's a better place to run your infrastructure. Instead of running it under your desk, you better put it into the data center and have it secure. And then there's also another perspective from a sustainability standpoint. Running a small setup in some back chamber with air conditioning, you can never run it sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So bring it into a large data center where things can be run more efficiently. So there's like multiple perspectives to all of this, and there's still much to do. Fortunately.
That's fortunate, Ellie, absolutely, because helping build those efficiencies or helping people meet those regulations, they're opportunities. They're opportunities to solve problems for potential customers and for customers. And believe me, we could do a whole other panel just on the policy parts. I mean, we don't have time to get into that, but that's my area of focus. I do policy work, tech policy work for the internet. But I figured that when you were talking about efficiencies, I think it probably makes sense to talk a little bit about the driving factors of efficiencies. You had mentioned before how costs have been fluctuating, costs of power, costs of equipment, things like that. I'm really interested in figuring out what has changed that has been like challenging or an opportunity for you. We could talk about those types of changes in costs, but also maybe if there are any changes in the cost of customer acquisition or just change in cost of operations in general. What's surprising there?
Well, maybe one key driver has actually been the price of power, of energy.
Price of power.
Here in Germany. I mean, since the price after the start of the Ukraine war really went up to the ceiling, I guess a lot of companies with their internal IT suddenly realized, oh, we're spending lots of, where do we draw all that power? Suddenly it costs lots of money. So people got thinking a bit more. And so in a way, I mean, it's not a good thing that all of this crisis happened, but in one way, it actually helped some people realize that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So
that makes sense. Any other big changes in cost factors and things like that? Big changes in the cost of acquiring business?
I can't speak for the marketing side, but certainly we have the same thing on the tech side. Massive power cost increases, especially in the UK as well. Obviously, data center space in London is some of the most expensive in the world. So we have a big project at the moment ongoing to consolidate older hardware onto newer, more efficient systems. Obviously also helps from the environmental aspect as well. So long term, hopefully it works out for everyone. But it's a major issue.
So we only have time for 2 more questions before we end today. And the penultimate question before I ask for your closing comment is to look ahead at future opportunities. What do you think are going to be your major growth drivers in the next 5 years when it comes to servicing the needs of clients?
AI, probably.
Okay, we're back at AI.
Oh, but
okay.
The overall demand, and certainly AI just needs much more processing power.
Yeah.
So it's really the amount of processing power companies are needing.
Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, as I said, and AI plays a role of it. It's selling more products to our existing customer base, say, and that is definitely, let's say, for me, one of the core drivers. AI will, as I think, help us to get more websites online, and on the cost side of things. And sorry to say that, but AI can also do a big deal for us in terms of, let's say, in improving our customer experience. For example, in the area of customer care, but also, as I learned, also in the how we gonna deploy servers, how we gonna manage our servers, how we do the development of new products, and there I think there is, let's say, also from the cost side of things, a lot of opportunities to improve.
Great.
Yeah, I think more usage of AI-driven things to improve our overall operations. People talk about generative AI at the moment. For me as the tech guy, that's not very useful. But certainly for things like server monitoring, efficiency, making the best use of our rack space, performance monitoring for websites, traffic predictions. Like my website's had a sale and it's crashed. Why didn't you work it out? Well, I'm just a host. I don't always see that. But if I can offer something to our customers to help them, then great.
Thank you. We are officially at our end, but I do want to hit my last question. But we have to be brief about this. So the focus of this was to take a look at what was happening in Europe and give lessons to the other communities in the nations of cloud, right? So could you share with me one thing that Europe's doing that everybody should take heed on and learn from?
I was hoping you'd come to me last, so I had more time to think about it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, no problem.
Europe is obviously more mature, but there's still lots of innovation. So I think maybe sometimes we are, like we said earlier, maybe less optimistic than the Americans or other countries. I think be optimistic, be innovative, and look to the future. Don't look at what's happened before.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
I think what other regions can learn from Europe is we are, I mean, compared, for example, to the US, we are really able to manage diversity, like diversity of countries, diversity of, let's say, different cultures within Europe, because that's also, let's say, we can also manage different customer bases, different customer cultures, and that is something that helps us a lot. And that also is one of the, let's say, very stabilizing factors compared to all the, let's say, big giants that want to come into Europe and want to fully conquer the market.
So my message, really brief, hosting companies are always used open source. So I would encourage all those companies to also look at other open opportunities. There's open hardware, open operations, so just open up. I think that's really helpful for lots of, especially the smaller companies out there, and especially even in other markets.
That's really
That's
good
the way to go.
That's really good advice. I thank my panel very much. I'd like you to give them a round of applause. Thank you for their time today. It's been awesome. Great conversation.